Welcome to the Pet Loss Companion. I'm Ken Dolan-Del Vecchio. I'm here with my friend and co-author, Nancy Saxton-Lopez, and this is a program that we do every Thursday from 6 p.m. to about 6:30, give or take. And it is a program that really is an extension of the book that we wrote a while back called The Pet Loss Companion, Healing Advice from Family Therapists Who Lead Pet Loss Groups. And this program gives us the opportunity to have an expanded reach and to dialogue with audience members who send us their stories. And so we encourage you to send us your story if you'd like to share it. And you can reach me at kenddv@gmail.com. And you can reach Nancy at nsaxtonlopez@csmpc.com. And all of the information I'm sharing right now is in the description that's attached to either the live broadcast or the replay. And so I'm going to run through this pretty fast, but it's all here for your reference. I will say that if you send us your story and you would like for us to be able to share it, please let us know that. Say that in the note so that we're clear on that. And in any case, we will respond to you, and one or both of us will respond to you. There are many ways that you can support the program. One is by subscribing to our Substack, which is an ongoing post of the correspondence that we receive, and our correspondence back and forth with audience members, and also all of the great pictures that people send us. So it's another way that you can see the stories that people share. There is a subscription fee of $5 a month or $50 for the whole year. And so that offers some support to the program. There's also ways that you can support us that include things like Venmo and PayPal and a monthly subscription. This program is a friend of Dakin Humane Society, which is in Springfield, Mass. It's a multi-program adoption and resource center, rescue center. And it is a great place that does all kinds of programming that supports the human-animal bond. And one of the things that they do is they sponsor a weekly pet loss Zoom support meeting that I facilitate. There is no cost to you, and you can RSVP on the Dakin website. There's a link to the RSVP in the description. It is on the second Tuesday of the month. It runs 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, and we have people who join from all over the world. It's a very interesting mix of people. If you RSVP and then you decide that you can't make it, please let us know that, because we do cap the enrollment, and we'd like for everybody who is available to be part of the program and would like to be able to participate. Please consider subscribing on YouTube if you haven't already, because this affects the algorithm in a way that makes the program more readily accessible to people who may benefit from it. Also, if you can write a comment, give it a thumbs up, all of these things give the program more visibility. And then finally, as we're getting started, we always like to let you know that we have an affiliate relationship with a company called Bereave. And Bereave makes these very beautifully crafted granite memorial plaques that you can put in a memorial garden or on a gravesite or at a place inside where you keep mementos. And it really is a great memento that you can have, as in the image here, a picture of your beloved animal companion and whatever text that you might like. If you buy one of these through the link in our description, and only through the link in our description, we will actually get a little bit of support as a kickback from your purchase. So please consider doing that if this is something that may be something you're interested in. And Nancy is showing the example that we got, which Bereave gave to us when they invited us to be an affiliate of theirs. So Nancy, want to get us started for today?
Yes, we have a story tonight from Jenny about her beautiful Ace. Of course, as we all know, we so appreciate people sending their work into us, their stories about They're beautiful companion animals, and what has happened through their lifetime, their relationship together, and then, of course, the process of having to go through end of life with them and how devastating that is. So I'm going to start, and Ken's going to finish, and we'll talk about it. And if we have time, we're going to also talk about, I've had some, and Ken also, people contacting us over the last few weeks around accidents of their animals, and wanted to see if we can have a little conversation about that if there's time. Dear Ken and Nancy, she said on, but thank you so much for your podcast. It's helped me immensely after losing my beloved dog Ace 3 months ago. Please feel free to share my story. I apologize if this is long and jumbled. I'm still very much grieving. I've attached some pictures, and really, Ace is really beautiful. My name is Jenny, and Ace was my big 80-pound Australian Shepherd. He had many nicknames: Acey, Acey Basie, Boozy, Big Boy, Buford, and Old Pa. I love Old Pa. That was really cute. He had a beautiful red and tan coat with a white fluffy chest, white legs, and a strip of white that went from the middle of his forehead and down his nose. I got him when I was 26 years old. I am almost 40 now. He was my first dog. My parents didn't allow us to have pets growing up. I was a professional pet sitter, still am. I wonder why she was a pet sitter, knowing that she, loving animals and not being able to have any growing up. I was a professional pet sitter, and one of my dog walking clients had 2 Australian Shepherds that had bred. On February 21st, 2011, their dog ended up giving birth to 10 puppies, 9 males and 1 female, 5 black tries and 5 red tries. I guess that means tricolor. Mm-hmm. This client had very little experience in taking care of a litter of pups. I was over there weekly helping with the puppies, brushing them, holding them, and clipping their nails. I was so in love with all of them, but one particular puppy stood out to me. He was the lightest of the 5 red tries. He was patient and never tried to eat my shoelaces. He would observe things from a distance and was very calm. I became very attached to him. At the time, I was still living with my parents, so I wasn't sure if they would allow me to bring him home. I wrote them a letter and explained how connected I felt to them. They said yes, and I was elated. Ace came home with me at 8 weeks old. Ace loved other dogs. I would take him to the dog park almost daily. We would walk a lot, and I would take him to the lagoon nearby to swim. Ace had endless energy. I did a lot of training with him. He knew multiple tricks and walked beautifully on leash. He knew how to shake, high five, double high five, and could stand on his hind legs and beg. He could bark on command, target his feet to an object, and I also conditioned him to wear a muzzle for those scary vet visits. He was extremely smart, food motivated, and loved to work. He was a huge foodie his whole life. He loved to steal food, and on many occasions stole chocolate, pizza, and even a whole stick of butter one time, wrapper and all. I was so sure he would get diarrhea from that butter, but he never did. He did not trust men, and when he was around a year and a half, he had some unfortunate bite incidents. I was gutted. I made a promise to him that I would not give up on him. Ace had multiple trainers during his life, and I'm so grateful for all of them. He no longer bit anyone, but I was also very aware of his body language and wouldn't put him in situations that caused him too much stress. Ace and I eventually moved out of my parents' house. I bought my first home, a beautiful condo. Ace and I thrived and continued enjoying life. We still visited my parents multiple times a week, and Ace got to go swimming in their pool. In my spare time, I took karate classes, and that is where I met my husband, Andy. I remember being so worried about Ace accepting him into our pack. For weeks, I walked Ace and had Andy come along with us. I invited him to my home, and I put a muzzle on Ace. Long story short, I should say. Ace had no problems accepting him. Ace must have sensed what a great guy he is. After dating for about a year, we added another Australian Shepherd to our family named Piper. Ace absolutely loved her. They spent a lot of time playing and wrestling and pretty much doing everything together. We got married a year later and had so many fun adventures. We had multiple camping trips, hikes, and vacations with the dogs. In early 2017, Ace earned his Canine Good Citizen Award, and I was so incredibly proud of him. We welcomed our son in December of 2017. We were careful with Ace around our son. For never being around children, Ace adapted better than we thought. Our son would give him treats and we would go on walks as a family. When our son would come home from school, Ace would rummage through his backpack, pull out his jacket, and run around the house with it. Ace was such a silly dog, even in his old age. He could be very puppy-like and would steal our socks any chance he got. My husband always joked that Ace tolerated everyone else, but he really only had eyes for me. Ace would lay by the front door if I had to run errands, and he would stay there until I got home. He wouldn't even eat treats until I was home. It was like he hadn't seen me in ages. He was always so happy to see me, wiggling his bum. Ken?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I thought you were doing that one. Okay. Ace turned 13 in February 2024. We got him a cake like we always did for his birthday and lots of crinkly, squeaky toys. He loved toys. He had really slowed down, though, lost his hearing, had arthritis in his back legs, cloudy eyes, and had elevated liver enzymes. We kept an eye on it, and I always took him for regular vet visits. I helped him up the stairs every night to go to bed. He still loved short walks and never missed a meal. On Friday, May 3rd, 2024, Ace vomited up his breakfast, which was extremely unusual. I thought it was just an upset stomach. I went and got some chicken and rice from the store and gave it to him with some probiotics. We took a short walk that day. Little did I know that would be his last walk. Over the weekend, he seemed a little better. I picked up some new dog food that I thought might help his stomach and mixed it with the chicken and rice. On Monday, May 6th at 5:30 in the morning, I was jolted awake to what sounded like Ace trying to vomit. He was making a horrible wrenching sound, one that I'd never heard him do before. I got up and went in the hallway with him. He plopped down on the ground and continued making that sound, like maybe he was having trouble breathing. He then stood up and lost control of his bladder. I was panicked. I eventually got him to calm down and got him comfortable. I called my vet's personal cell asking if she could see him. She wrote me back quickly that she was out of town. She has been my vet since Ace was 8 weeks old, so I was disappointed. She told me to head to the clinic and that her backup vet would see me the first thing. Before my husband left for work, I started sobbing. I told him, if I call him, he needs to come to the vet clinic right away. I knew in my heart that Ace may not be coming home. I dropped my son at school and raced home. Ace was lying down and seemed like he had calmed down. I opened up his crate and he tried to get up. He fell over onto his side and was really struggling to get up. I was able to get him up and out to the car. I picked up all 80 pounds of him and told him Mama was helping him. He didn't fight it at all. He was so very sick. He coughed multiple times on our ride to the vet. I got him there quick and started sobbing again. Ace really disliked going to the vet. The vet tech came out to help me get him out. I muzzled him just in case. They took him in the back and started working on him. They did an ultrasound, x-rays, blood work, blood clotting test, and checked his pulse. The ultrasound and x-ray showed a mass in his abdomen, extreme gas in his belly, and something on his lungs, which she thought could be aspirate pneumonia. His pulse was lower than she would have liked. Clotting tests came back normal, and his blood work showed elevated kidney liver numbers, but normal white and red blood cell count. He was really sick. Kept trying to cough and just sounded horrible. At one point, he coughed up mucus with blood in it. The vet looked at me and said the abdominal mass seemed to be causing a lot of issues and that she didn't think he'd make it another month. She recommended that the kind thing to do would be to let him go before he got much worse, or the mass rupturing. I was crushed, devastated, thought I was going to throw up. My husband came. The sweet vet tech went and picked up sausage McMuffins, hash browns, and ice cream from McDonald's. Ace happily ate everything except for the bread and egg. He was very tired, and we spent a long time petting, talking with him, and feeding him. He actually fell asleep on my lap at one point. When it was time, I looked at the vet and said, "Should I muzzle him?" She said, "If you think he needs it." He had such a hard time with vets, so I did. Once the sedation hit, I took it off of him. I held him and we let him go to the Rainbow Bridge. My boy was gone. Why in his last moments did I muzzle him? I can't get it out of my head. He was so sick and he wouldn't have bit her. He was my heart dog, and I did not want him to suffer in any way. I would have done anything for him. I took what the vet said to heart and believed we were doing the best thing for him. I've had waves of guilt. Did I feed him the wrong food in his last days? Did it cause him to have too much gas and just make everything worse? Should I have brought him home for a couple days and just loved on him till my vet got home? I went numb after losing him. I couldn't stop crying. Piper, our other Aussie, has had Ace by her side for 9 years. After his passing, she wouldn't eat and would barely go outside to potty. I picked up Ace's ashes, paw print, and lock of hair from the vet's office about a week after he passed. My vet gave them to me. We hugged and cried. She assured me that we did the right thing and that she had looked at his x-rays when she got back from vacation. It gave me some relief, but my heart still wonders if I did absolutely everything I could for him. Jenny.
Now, this is very typical of the wonderful pet parents that we help on the podcast that really have done everything possible to give their wonderful companion animals the best life. And when we do that, and it seems to be more for those that we do so much for our, companion animals and give them the best that we can, that we still feel guilty after the fact.
Yeah.
Right? Talked a lot about that. That she was worried about the different food. She was worried about the decision. She knew, or the vet had told her when the vet got back, and also it's also inconvenient, right? She wanted her own vet to be able to do that. And unfortunately, her vet was out of town. So all of these things that you have to start to think about in that emotional turmoil that you are in, knowing that maybe your beautiful baby is at the end of his or her life.
And she has this question about the muzzle. And the way I think about that is, if he's really not feeling well, if he's in some degree of pain or maybe in pain, and it has been a good idea to put a muzzle on him at the vet's office before, it makes perfect sense that we should.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do that. And so it's just, that's one of those things. There are these things that stick in our heads afterwards. Like, why did I do that? And usually it's completely reasonable why you did it, but there's something about it that makes you have misgivings. And we just have such a way of focusing on those kinds of details.
Right.
And actually, to me, it sounds like a pretty nice send-off, considering how things sometimes go.
Right. Well, right. And also he was going through so much.
Yeah. And he was going through a lot of, and when I heard about the coughing and the gas in his abdomen, all I could think of was, you don't want that to persist. That can be so painful. And so I think they got really good counsel and really wonderful support. And what about this technician going to get McDonald's?
Well, that happens, right?
That's amazing.
No. I mean, I've seen this in the vet that I work for, right? When all of a sudden your animals is what one of the doctors said one time when I went to the back, and she was petting this dog and they were giving him ice cream, right? and I said, oh, and I knew what that meant, right? And she goes, Yeah, he's going to heaven. And so, but they would have cake and ice cream and
Hmm.
chocolate and all of these
Hmm.
things that and the families would bring in
Yeah.
sometimes the last meal, right?
It's like a celebration of their life right
Yeah,
there with
yeah,
them.
right.
It's great.
So, and that's not until, and we've heard that from the stories, even when, a family can bring home their animal for a
Yeah.
day or two, and they will take them to get their steak or and do their
Yeah.
last hike or take them to to the beach or
Yeah.
whatever that might be, or go see all of their family members, right?
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
say goodbye, you
Yeah.
know.
But that was
Sometimes it
that was
doesn't
very
happen.
generous. That was very generous of the staff there, I
Mhm.
think, to do that.
Yeah, that always happens that way.
But she's going through what
Yeah,
most of us go through with the misgivings and the extraordinary pain. And she said, I don't know if this will be very organized, what she wrote. It certainly is, but that's the kind of thinking that we have. Like our thinking isn't really as clear as we'd like it to be. And it's all what she's written
experiencing.
demonstrates
Yeah,
the way grief works. It's just the
that's
way
right.
it works.
Well, there's so many times, right? I mean, she kind of had that anticipation, right? That this was going to
Well,
be the day. However, you can feel the emotional turmoil and
of
angst
course.
and
Yeah.
anxiety, and when all of those emotions start to overwhelm us, you feel that you don't know what to do. Well, this goes into what we were talking about beforehand when I mentioned about accidents or people being so overwhelmed that then they believe that they've made the wrong decision after the fact, right?
Yeah,
Because they were
sure. Sure.
right.
So many recriminations and
Yeah.
replays, and we find ways to blame ourselves.
Mhm.
And it's just part of human nature, it seems to me. The more we care about our animal companion, the more likely we are to find some ways to blame ourselves, to feel like we didn't do enough, to
Right.
go through a whole bunch of what ifs, shoulda, couldas, all of that stuff. But yeah, so let's thank Jenny for
Thank you.
sharing her story with
It's
us on of
wonderful.
Ace, and what a beautiful dog Ace
Yeah.
was, and what a beautiful life
Yeah.
he was given by Jenny and her husband and her whole family. It
Her
sounds like.
family got a beautiful life with him, and he got a beautiful life too.
So you want to talk some about accidents because
Accident.
you know, we heard recently from somebody whose dog was uh, unfortunately left in a car and died as a result of that.
Mhm.
You've heard from people
I've
who
had two people now who have reached out and their dogs have drowned. And we did have another person that accidentally left their dog in a car.
and then I heard
Yeah.
today from a person who their dog got run over by a car.
Mhm.
And so
It's a real, it's such a tragic and traumatic thing because none of these people would ever intentionally hurt the
of
beautiful
course,
animals, right? It's just not in them. But the question is, and we have a lot of people that say, but how does this happen then? How does this happen? Why did it happen? Right? What caused this? Why did I maybe make that choice? And the guilt, I will say that the guilt is overwhelming. It's tremendously overwhelming and devastating.
my answer for this is that accidents happen.
I
You know,
know.
we don't we're not all seeing, we're not all knowing, and things go wrong sometimes. And we do the best we can, and sometimes we miss things or we forget things. I mean, we recently had, I think we shared a story about somebody whose kitten got left in a dryer.
In a dryer, right.
And
Right, but
so
they got into the dryer and was not.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so and it is extremely painful for those people because their oversight or their lack of attention momentarily played a role. There's no two ways about it. But it's so important to recognize that, we make mistakes every single day, and most of the time they don't cost anyone's life. Nothing terrible happens, but we are immensely fallible. We're always making errors, and unfortunately, the luck of the draw sometimes is that we miss something, we make an oversight, we forget something, and something very, very painful results, a loss results. It's so incumbent upon us to try to be gentle in the wake of these things. Like one of the things that this is where groups are so valuable, because what happens is everybody else in the meeting is very loving and gentle, and absolutely, it doesn't even come down to forgiveness, because they know that there wasn't anything. They didn't do anything intentionally wrong. And so one of the big questions I always think here is it possible to offer the same kind of grace to ourselves that we would to others, almost reflexively offer if somebody were telling that story, and it happened to them? We wouldn't heap scorn on them or shame them, or we would just be really kind, because we know that's just part of life. Things like this happen.
Although I will say, in the world, a lot of what I'm getting is, but I mean, what do people think about me if they heard, or how I'm starting to feel shame, and I push back on that. I do have someone that I think was very, very poignant in her thinking about this. Was, I know I'm a good person, and this is one moment.
Yeah.
Just one moment.
Yeah.
And what something happened. And I can't live my life with that one moment. I have to live my life and understand that it's an accident, and that I've been working. There is no shame here.
This is one of those instances where if there are people who judge you harshly for that, that's really more of a reflection on them, I would say. I mean, it's easy to say that, but it's really true. I mean, again, you will see that in a group of people, pet loss support group, let's say, you're not going to find judgment. You're going to find support. You're going to find understanding. You're going to find people who are as generous toward you as they could possibly be in spirit, because we understand. I mean, people who are grounded in kindness
and
empathy understand that these things happen, and there's life is full of really unpredictable twists and turns,
challenges,
and tricks of fate. And we had I'll tell you this little story. We had a person in the meeting just I guess it was last week, and she was so bereft after the last loss she had that she decided that she loves animals really a great deal. She decided to foster. She fostered a dog who seemed to be in fine health. The dog got deathly ill and died. And her strategy was to not adopt, but to foster, because then she wouldn't have to go through another loss. Who would imagine that? But that's life. That's the kind of stuff that happens sometimes. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't predict it. This is well beyond our control. And we've had people tell us things like they're walking their dog and a car jumps the curb, and the dog is like right either at the curb or right next to the curb. I've heard a story of a dog who was left for a few minutes tied to a couch, managed to jump over the couch and strangle themselves.
I mean, you also hear this about people, obviously. We work in ERs, right? So, unfortunately, but I want people to know that don't let this one thing define your life. This is what this woman told me, which I want to give her credit for because she's struggling so much with it. Don't let it define who you are. You know, yes, it's painful.
And I think too that one of the things you can do is you can write a letter to yourself as though
Mhm.
you were a dear friend who had just
Yeah.
told you. If a friend had told you that this happened to them, what would you write to them?
Yeah.
Write them a letter
Yeah.
and then read it,
Helps.
because undoubtedly you
Mhm.
will give them the kindness, the grace,
Mhm.
the understanding that they would deserve, that they would deserve, because that they would never intend this. You would never intend
Mhm.
to do this.
Yeah. So I think this is good. I mean, we can continue this discussion
Yeah,
over time,
yeah,
but it just seemed to be a lot of things happening in the last
yeah. A lot
few
of
months or
stories about
so.
this.
So, but we will continue that discussion. If anyone out there would like to leave some comments about this, or would like
Yeah,
to hear more about it, or would like to, or have share another situation or issue around grief, please let us know.
yeah, and also if you find the program helpful, please do subscribe on YouTube. It raises the visibility of the program, and leave a comment, leave a thumbs up. All of that stuff is helpful. So thanks
Right.
very much, and take care, Nancy.
You
We'll
too,
do
Ken.
this again next week.
Next week.
Bye bye.